So I was initially going to make another video about a week ago to sort of correct some stuff that I misunderstood initially with my last video. But before I could even do that, I honestly just ended up getting so busy with this work, this translation work, that I've begun this whole process of actually dividing this out, getting these chapters put out, getting this thing chapterized, essentially, you see, and getting the whole concept laid out, like an actual theory for this language that God has created. But today I wanted to unveil a couple of things, a couple of big things about this whole theory. So the first one is the Trifold tree of life. Now, anybody familiar with the Chakra system is probably going to see a lot of similarities here. Everything that I'm going to be showing you here, this Trifold tree of life, is written into the book of Genesis. It's written, the way that it's laid out is written into the Torah. The understandings that I'm going to present to you are written into the Torah. And then the tree of life, this system, the Trifold tree of life, is laid out in a very simple manner based upon the actual Torah itself. Like I said, and the actual Hebrew alphabet itself, in the way that the letters are laid out, right? So in alphabetical order, Aleph, Bet, Gam, Dal. When you put all of those in order, in alphabetical order, that alphabetical order is laid out in the Torah itself, right? Because the Torah, once again, it does not use doesn't use numbers like we do. It's like there's no 1, 2, 3 in the Torah. There's, Aleph, Bet, Gam, Dal. They use their own lettering system as numbers. And so in the way that the chapters are laid out tells you the order that the letters are laid out, alphabetical order. And that order starts with Aleph, right here at the top, Aleph. But let's get to how that manifests, how that order manifests. All right. This Paleo Hebrew alphabet, which I'm beginning to call paleo. It's really paleo. Paleo is a divine language. It's a divine lettering system, an alphabet, script, really. But this script is more of a map key that unlocks a whole bunch of deeper meanings, and then unlocks it unlocks essentially the way to translate any language into the divine language, right? So it's the key to the divine language that God gave. And that divine language is the sounds themselves. You see, it's the sounds ba, ga, da, he, e. You see, it's the sounds themselves are actually divine. N, la, 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 la. These are divine utterances. They're also channels that create bridges between you and the divine. So we're going to look at this first. In the Torah, there are these things. They've been laid out for at least since, the year 800 CE is when they were first recorded. But the rabbis, the rabbinical sources, say that they go back to Mount Sinai. And that's what I believe. I believe these are from Mount Sinai. These understandings are written into the context of the letters themselves. But putting the marks on them allows you to get that understanding much faster instead of having to read between the lines. So I think this was always there, and it has been codified as these tagins. Tagins are these little sprouts coming off the top of these letters. You see? Little tagins, all right? There's 3 tagin letters, there's 1 tagin letters, and there's 0 tagin letters. And it starts with a 0 tagin letter, Aleph. And then it goes to a 1 tagin letter, Bet. And then it goes to a 3 tagin letter, Gimel, Gam, right? So the rabbinical sources don't know what these things are for. They really don't. They have no concept. There's a rabbi that pulled a lot of deep information and knowledge out of them. But I believe that's what they're for. And I'm about to pull a little. God has pulled a little bit more of that deeper knowledge through me to be able to bring this to us now. And I'm very grateful for that. Crown tags, right? What they actually represent are the 3 aspects of God that can manifest. And each letter can be considered a power of each crown. The mother crown tag has 9 powers. The father crown tag has 6 powers. And the child crown tag has 7 powers. Right? So here's your 0 crown tags. That's like, if you look at this, that's Aleph. This is a 0 crown tag. Vav is a 0 crown tag. Kaf is a 0 crown tag. Lamed is a 0 crown tag. Mem is a 0 crown tag. Samek. Right, so this is Kaf. Giving is a 0 crown tag. Here, let's look at it. I'll show you. 0 crown tag represents divine feminine. Okay? The divine feminine is represented by 0 because the divine feminine is the basis for everything. It's what everything grows in. Right? It's like before there's even a beginning, there is the divine feminine. And what we're going to find in the Trifold tree of life is that the root, the heart, and the crown of every part of the tree, Trifold tree, because there's 3. There's 3 roots, 3 crowns, 3 hearts. Every one of them is rooted within a feminine aspect. There's a heart aspect that's feminine, and the crown aspect that's feminine. So everything is encapsulated within the divine feminine and is growing within the divine feminine, right? So the divine feminine encapsulates God, which is God's power, authenticity, and truth. It encapsulates connection and compassion. And you can also say unity. I would say unity. Connection, unity, and compassion. Kaf is giving. It represents space, right? It actually represents space. A space for something to grow. It represents the giving of something. And in order to give, you have to be willing to create that space, right? Think about giving space, you know? If you're giving space for somebody, you're creating a space for them to grow in. It's this gift of the space. Lam is guiding, and it's also associated with faith. It's the shepherd, the shepherd's staff guiding. Mem is water, and it's related to healing and purification. And it's also related to watering, right? Like watering seeds, watering things that you're trying to grow, nurturing something you're trying to grow. Semex is support and protection. And that's related to trying to nurturing. Pei is speaking. So it's related to air. It's actually the air element. And it's related to creativity. Resh is the head and the mind and intuition. And Ta is the mark. It's the mark. It's of completion. See, that's why it's the last one. It's the last divine feminine aspect that manifests in the alphabetical order. All right, so all of these I've actually put in, all of these except for this last one, because I put these in their chakra system, in their chakra order. Because essentially I believe that it shows the order. It shows the order that these things will go. All right, let's get back to the divine masculine. The divine masculine is one crown tag. All right, you see one. There's 6 divine masculine aspects. See how there's 9 divine feminine aspects? 6 divine masculine aspects. All right, that's Bet, which is the family, and that's related to dwelling as well as strength and protection. There's Dal, which is opening a door. It's related to leadership and purpose. Hey is related to revelation and praise, and it's also related to responsibility and accountability. Chet, pit, hit, it'd be a hit. Hit is dividing, separation, judgment, and boundaries. It's the ability to actually make judgments and boundaries and separations. Yod is working, grasping, discipline, and action. Kof is spinning thread and logic and reason. So it's bringing a bunch of different threads together and spinning them into one single thread. Right? Bringing order out of chaos. Right. So then we get to the child, all of the child crown tag, which is 3 crown tags. You can see up here. We saw all those 3 crown tags. They're all related to things growing, all very physical things you're going to see. We have the seed, which is related to the child. It's also the earth. It's the earth element. We're going to see that the elements are built into this as well because of the higher and lower aspects that we find. The seed has a higher lower aspect. Desire has a higher lower aspect. Desire is related to fire. Water has a higher lower aspect. It's related to mem. It's related to water. Kaf, the giving, has a higher lower aspect. It's related to giving and space. Pei is a higher lower aspect. It's speaking. So it's related to air. And then Aleph, which is the highest element, the 6th element, is God, which is what everything is. And that's also truth, right? So it actually starts with God, and then it goes to Kaf, space. And then from space, we actually manifest the seed. Or sorry, then we manifest the water. And we use the water to water the seeds growing, right? The earth. And then we speak truth. We speak truth. And we use the fire of desire to burn away all that's false. Right? There is a whole process to this. in the 3 crown tags, we find, this is an interesting, I forgot to point this out. In the divine feminine aspect, there are four elements of creation, 4 out of 6. Okay? Those are God, space, water, and air. In the divine masculine aspect, there are no elements of creation. The divine masculine can only work with what is and has no creative elements of itself. Bringing the 2 together, creating the child, we get 2 extra elements, which are earth and fire. See? All right. In the crown tags, we get seed, nun, desire, sad, zan, which is sowing, sin, which is nourishing. It's a heart chakra. Gam, growing. Then onion, which is knowledge, the third eye. And then thet, the basket, the container, the crown. All right, so seed is the root chakra. Sad is the desire, the sacral chakra. Zan is the sowing, which is solar plexus. Sin is nourishing, which is the heart chakra. Gam is growing, which is the throat. Onion, right? Knowledge, third eye. Thet, basket, which is crown. You see? So that order tells us how the order of the tree of life is going to come. What each one of the different levels means, essentially, and what they're related to. God is pointing us back to the chakra system, and it unveiled that before in preparation for the revelations coming out right now, right? Because we are in a time of massive social change, and this is a time for revelation. So it is a time to not to turn to fear, but actually to turn to love, you see, to turn towards what God is revealing, which is our interconnection with each other. That's the true revelations that are happening. Old systems fall away as new revelations come. There are 3 aspects of God in creation, and this is the trifold tree. You see, God manifests in creation in 3 progressive levels, which feed each other. These are the creative aspect, the upholding aspect, and the destroying and rebirthing aspect. In creation and upholding, the rebirthing, we find all 3 forms of God's divine power present. And each level of creation, we see 3 feminine aspects, 2 masculine aspects, and 2 child aspects. The final stage of creation, rebirthing, contains 3 child aspects, making 8 powers and signifying rebirth. This shows that each level is complete in and of itself, and yet they all feed into each other, with the final stage of creation feeding back into the beginning stage of creation. This is where we begin to see this tree of life starting to take shape, right? This tree of life is a multidimensional tree, which roots from God in the highest realms into the lower realms. And this tree is special as the fruit contains a seed that grows another tree. And the tree of knowledge of good, that's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The tree of knowledge grows back up the structure of the tree of life, fruiting into the heart of the tree of life. These fruits contain the seeds of the family God is bringing out of the lowest desires. And these seeds then root in the heart of the tree of life and grow the final tree, which sprouts and grows around the first, back up into its roots in God's highest realms, sprouting family of God into the infinite realm. The way I found these is I found this in the order that they come in, literally by taking the first 3 female aspects and grouping them with the first 2 male aspects that come, and then the first 2 child aspects. Right? So I have this chart here. So you take the Hebrew alphabet here, okay? And you break it down into its feminine aspects in alphabetical order. Then its masculine aspects in alphabetical order. And then its air aspects in alphabetical order. You take the first the first feminine aspect, that's your root. Then you take your first masculine aspect, that's your sacral. You take your first air aspect, that's your solar plexus. Then you go back to your feminine, that's your heart. Then you go to your next male aspect, that's your throat. You see Dal. This is the tree of life. Then you go to your next male aspect. Sorry, your next air aspect, that would be Zan. That's the third eye of the tree of life. Then you go back to your female aspect. That would be crown, Kaf. Okay? And that completes the tree of life. Now we go to the next one. This is the tree of knowledge. It starts with the Lam. Lam is the root. Then we go to the next male aspect down. That's Hey. See? Then we go to the next air aspect down. That's Thet. So on and so forth. And you will get this order until you get to the last one, which has leftover Shin. And you will see that in the tree of life, Shin sprouts into the roots of the tree where it began, in God's eternal realm, where God had began sprouting the tree of life down. All right? So God, in the eternal realm, cannot come close to us. Why can God not come close to us? Because we are so far away from God that we are so vibrationally low and far away from God that God's energy is incapable of coming close to us. By its very nature and by our very nature, just coming close to God would destroy us if God came to us in their full power. And I think of this in the same way as like ultraviolet light. God manifests all this different light, right? And in fact, the light that you see is also ultraviolet light. It's also the radio frequencies that carry all our information. It's also the infrared frequencies, which are below the visible light, that can actually heat physical matter, you see? So this energy, depending on where it's vibrating, can have different effects on different parts of the energy, and especially on our energy level. When we are so vibrationally low that we are like bacteria in open world ocean trying to grow in an early earth, and God is like the sun. We have no protection, right? So it just would destroy us, just destroys us. So God can't come close to us. God wishes to come close to this family that's lost in this lowest part of themselves, the lowest part of God's self. And so how can God do that? Well, God's plan is to vibrationally lower themselves from the pure white light that God is, going down the levels until they manifest into physical reality, right? What each of these levels represent are actually levels of concealment. They're days of creation. So in the beginning, God created first. He's rooted in heaven. And that's like zero. But really, God created. And that's where God lives. It's in this eternal realm in completeness. Everything within creation is complete. It's a whole process that's complete. God rests in that completeness. Even in this lowest realm, you see this little dot that's God, that's growing, that's going back up. This little dot is resting in completeness, in completion, in order to come close to us. God has to begin to conceal themselves from us, to conceal their light, essentially. They have to create this space. They have to create darkness by vibrationally lowering their energy. Okay? This creates a space within which to manifest a universe, right? So this is happening on our level as humans. This is why I put a human body behind this, to show that God's tree roots in reverse, you see? But it also is to show that this is a universe manifesting, coming down, see? This is making the space. This is what the black represents, is making the space. And that's what Kaf is. It's a gift of the space for us to grow that God has created so that we can come close to God. You see, this ladder is built entirely so that God can come down to our level and come meet the devil within each of our souls, this little self that's lost in this craving and desire that we're all lost in. And God is coming down to our level and literally befriending all of us, and guiding us back to their divine realm. It makes me think of that song by the Grateful Dead, a friend of the devil is a friend of mine, right? A friend of the devil is a friend of mine. Why? Because the only friend of the devil is God. Because God literally comes down from heaven to save them, to show them the light, and guides them from within and without, up this ladder, back up all the way, slowly undoing these seals that hide God's light, slowly revealing God's light, little by little, boom, boom, revealing more and more of it until we can handle the pure beauty of God's infinite reality. And this is a process. This is not something that happens once in one life. This is multiple levels right here that are being shown to us. These are seeds that are being grown. Right? All right, so the trifold tree of life starts with the tree of life. And it's a reverse chakra system where God roots in this eternal realm, in the infinite light, the infinite clear light, and manifests downward. And each stage, starting with the first day of creation, this is what this represents. The first, the sacral represents the first day of creation. This is God concealing their light progressively in these marks, sealing it, literally sealing it. And in Revelation, we find that what does Jesus do? Jesus begins to undo the seals, you see? Undoing the seals on the scroll. So it's doing everything in reverse order, undoing these seals back to God, bringing them back to God. That's what Revelation is showing. Everything as it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. And everything here is also shown through Genesis, right? And I'm quite far in those Genesis revelations, in the new translations of that. But I think right now this has been more important. And so I've been trying to God has been asking me to manifest this right now. And I've been focusing my efforts on that. Right. This trifold tree of life roots in the eternal realm, roots in God's spiritual eternal realm, and fruits into our material consciousness. It is consciousness. God is consciousness, manifesting downward, right? Now, God's sacral, God's desire, right? You can almost say God's lust is for the family to be free from hell and for them to know God, right? So God begins this process of manifestation. And this is a double-sided tree. God begins spinning the thread here. See? Because he's sealing these up. He's sealing up this power and hiding it. So first, God seals up and hides the fact that his desire is for the family. That their desire is for the family. Or rather, God first seals up the fact that God is the creator of everything at all. Right? Coming down to here. The root. The root seal makes us forget God is the root and the crown of our being and our consciousness. This is the divine root crown. See? Because the crown has three. This is so beautiful. The trifold tree has 3 crowns. It has 3 crowns, 3 roots, and 3 hearts. See? And so this top one is the divine root crown. Going down, it manifests into the divine, into God's sacral. This seal makes us forget the family is the purpose of God's desire. We also forget our own spiritual home and our sacred dwelling at this level. You see? That's what's sealed behind there. Coming down like this. The heart is taken out of the head. And in God's solar plexus, the family begins to grow, the desire of God, beginning to lay the groundwork for what's to come. So God's desire is now growing. It's growing with the knowledge also. It's growing with the knowledge that that God's desire is to bring everyone up from hell and to save everyone. And it's also growing with the knowledge that, with the concealed knowledge that God is the creator of all. As we're going down, we go to the heart. This is the heart chakra, right? And this is God's heart is connection. It's connection to all beings. Now, God's heart is also the crown of the tree of knowledge and the root of the tree of truth. So I call it the royal heart root, the royal heart root, the royal root's heart, something like that, the royal heart root. It's based in connection to all beings, interconnectedness, unity. It's based in support, you see, because it's the crown of the knowledge of good and evil is support. And it's based in speaking. And speaking is also related to where did I lay this out? Creativity. It's also related to the air and spirit. So the spirit in the heart chakra. This level conceals the fact that our connection to God, it just literally, this seal makes us forget our fundamental connection to God and our interdependence with each other and the world. The throat is the next level, and that's opening. God speaks the opening that allows for the beginning of creation. See, this is God's throat chakra. God's throat chakra would be our solar plexus. No, sorry. God's throat chakra would be our sacral, right? God opens the door to creation. But in this opening, we also find what? Dividing, which is related to judgment and boundaries. So God opens the door and creates boundaries within it and divisions within it. And then this seal seals away the fact that makes us forget there is an opening to God at all times. And it makes us forget that we can create that opening whenever we want. All right, then we get to Zan, which is the third eye, God's third eye. Sowing, it's planting, to action. God's third eye plants the seed of the family to be grown and knows the fruit of the family. This shows that God's connection to the beings he brings forth as the sower. He knows those beings. You see, he knows what they're going to be, what they're going to do, what they're going to bring forth. And he knows what they're going to ultimately be. So he knows how to bring them down this path and how to show them the path. God's third eye is sowing. And this is also the tree of knowledge's solar plexus of containing. See? The container of our abundance is sown by God's infinite loving vision. Let me show you. God's third eye is our solar plexus on the tree of knowledge. See? And this contains the abundance that comes forth from the seeds that are growing and the seeds that are being sown. God gives us a container to hold that abundance. What is that container? That container is our consciousness. It's the mind. It's the human being. It's the body. You see, God's growing that body. He's sowing that body into being. And God knows all of us before we come. So there is no judgment with God. There's only love. See, this whole thing, this whole process is not about judgment. It's not about hell. It's in fact about getting everyone out of hell. It's about saving. It's about love. Finally, after planting, God manifests the crown, which is giving. It's kaf. It's the open hands. It's this open space for us to exist in and manifest in and be. You see, free of judgment, actually, completely free of judgment, because God doesn't come down and say, you're supposed to do this or you're supposed to do that. God is just within us, within our hearts, living out our lives with us, guiding us down our desires and manifesting our desires for us, to show us essentially that our desires separate from God, separate from God's will and love for each other and interconnection with each other, is empty. It's nothing. It's empty, hollow hell realm that we exist in. So God is going to guide us out of that. That's what he's doing. That's what they're doing. So God's crown now becomes the root for new seeds to grow because God planted those seeds. And God is guiding. You see, God is guiding. It's Lam guiding these seeds. These seeds are watered by this revelation. But these seeds can't even be watered by the revelation. They can't even begin to grow without faith. Because if you look at what's growing out of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, it's two different colors, but they're very difficult to tell apart. You see, they're basically the same color. It's red and a darker shade of red. And so the untrained eye, it's red and red. And as we progress up the ladder, the colors begin to change. And the divisions become more stark, you see. But we can't begin that process without faith. We can't begin to tell what's right and what's wrong. We can't begin to climb this ladder without trust and without faith in the guidance that's being given. And we have to be willing to hold space for that guidance, you see. So giving back of the space that's been given to us, just enough to hold guidance, to hold faith, begins our path, up this tree. That brings us to the second sacral, which is the revelation. Revelation is related to the revelation of God's interconnectedness with us, right? It's the revelation of God being the guiding force in our lives. That revelation becomes a need within us to give praise and give thanks, because at this level, that's what we want to do. That's what we are prone to do. We give praise to things that are bigger than us, and we long for praise and gratitude in return for things we do, right? At this very animalistic level. That's what this level represents. The tree of knowledge of good and evil is the animal level. The tree of life is the spiritual level, and the tree of truth is the heart level. It's kind of the human level, essentially, where we actually start to gain some freedom, because we've started to gain freedom from our trap, being trapped in these desires. We've only really gained that freedom after we've been able to turn away from the darkness and send it back down, the lower energies, and send it back down and alchemize those energies to go up. But we're not even there. We're just at revelation. And at revelation, we're sending praise up. We're sending praise up to God. And that praise is beginning to reap. It's going to start reaping into this container. That praise leads us to this container and leads us to a harvest, things to fill the container with. Our container becomes filled with abundance. Our longing and our cravings, our desires begin to be manifested. And as we give praise and thanks, God manifests those desires in any way that we give the praise or thanks, see, for all of us, because God is guiding all of us. In this container, the container of our consciousness, we have to begin to empty it. We have to begin to be willing to empty the container and not just fill it with the things that we want and things that we crave. We actually need to start emptying the container to fill it with what God longs us to fill it with. And so at the next level, we find the heart. The second heart is mem, it's water. God longs for us to fill it with water. To fill our heart with water. Now, water can be chaotic, but water can also nourish. Is it the higher water or the lower water? And what are you doing with the water? What are you watering? What seeds are you watering? God is asking us to fill our container, to leave it empty, to be filled with this water, and to take this water and raise it up. Raise it to the higher water. And in there, in our throat, using the throat chakra, we divide the waters. We divide the higher vibrational energy within us, the higher desires, the higher motivations, the spiritual motivations, bringing us back to God, back to oneness and unity and connection and love. And we alchemize the lower vibrational energies back down the tree into our lowest root, to be grounded out, to be reabsorbed, to be re-alchemized back up this tree, and to find new life, you see? And a lot of people are actually just kind of stuck on this path. A lot of human beings are just going up and down and up and down and over and over and over and up and down and over and all around. And they're kind of unable to divide. They're unable to divide the higher energies from the lower energies and manifest the higher vibrational energies of God, to manifest God's will. They end up watering the wrong seeds because they don't know how to divide. And see, the water goes up after being divided. It goes up to the seed, Nun, which is the child, the air. But they can't do that. Most people are stuck on this tree of good and evil. They're back and forth. Some people can't even tell the difference. Some people can't see the shades, and they can't even have enough faith to follow those shades up. Right? And some people keep going up, and they manifest, and they create, and they're given this container, and they begin to make this life. And they're given this water, and they're supposed to divide this water, but they take the water and they put all of it back into themselves, back into their selfish desires, back into their wants and their needs. And they just keep doing that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's what animals are like. That's what a lot of humans are trapped at. And God is trying to manifest this revelation now to help people get out of these traps. So what we need to do to get out of that trap is to separate the waters. And we need to, instead of watering this lower seed and our lower desires and our selfish desires and our cravings and our wants, we actually have to begin to self-sacrifice and take that water, take the positive parts of it, and use all that energy. And instead of putting it down, we send it back up the tree. We back up to the seed, Nun. And that begins to grow the seed into the crown of support. And the crown of support, Samek. Samex is also the heart of connection. It's God's heart of connection, you see? And this heart of connection is also the tree of truth's root of speaking. You see? What is it speaking? What is it speaking? Well, Pei is always speaking air, spirit, creativity. So now we're going to create. But we're going to create from the heart. We're going to manifest from the heart. And we're not going to manifest from a lower vibrational energy level. This time we're going to manifest from a higher level. So we take this higher intention and this higher seed, and we're sending it up to the work of God. And what's the work of God? The work of God is growing the family back up to God, showing love, wisdom, right? It's creating this ladder and then guiding the family along the ladder. And there's multiple levels to the ladder, and there's multiple families on multiple dimensions doing the work. But at this level, it's your introduction to that work, you see? God is showing you, after bringing you into the heart, God shows you the work of the family, the work of growing the family. See? Gam. You're being pulled up to grow the family. And you're growing it in the solar plexus. God's solar plexus, which is the tree of truth's solar plexus. And it's also the upward tree of life's throat chakra for speaking into creation. So using knowledge to create and speak, we grow the work. We grow the family through self-sacrifice, through love, and through meditative prayer practices, things that help us remember God and remember our purpose, which is to love and to grow the family. That's always the purpose and the point. It's always to love, and it's always to grow the family. If you are aware of that, that's how you grow into freedom. Coming out of your selfish desires that lock you down here and bring you into the freedom of the eternal realm. The freedom of the eternal realm, and the freedom of love and light. See? So, in knowledge, with knowledge, now, we are growing. And we're growing the family. We're growing towards the family. We've just and now we're bringing the heart. We're bringing the head. See, we're bringing the head down into the heart. That's what's happening. That's why the head is in the heart now. The head is in the heart. Your head is in the heart now, and your heart is guiding you. Right? But your heart is guiding you. And that guiding is pulling you towards the family, towards God. But the knowledge of this family, the knowledge of this higher family that's being grown, the higher family being grown out of the lower desires, and the higher family in the highest realms up here doing the work of growing the lower family. This revelation shows also that family is spinning the thread, doing the work of creating a path for everyone, a path forward, right? This family is doing the work, spinning that thread, weaving all of these independent energies and pieces together into one single thread that makes sense. On our next level, in our third eye, after we've gone from manifesting, right? Because we've gone from the sacral, which is the family, and the third eye, the throat, right here, of the tree of truth. We've spoken into manifestation the family and our connection to the family, the desire for the family. And here we see that desire clearly. And that desire is a fire. Because desire is a fire. Just as knowledge is a fire. The desire for knowledge is a fire. And that fire burns away everything that isn't true. That desire for love burns away everything that isn't true. Until the only thing that's left is the root. God, consciousness. We've come back to the eternal realm now, see? And we're back with God, and this is the crown. We're back in the crown root, the root crown, which is the mark. It's the mark of God's beauty, the final feminine aspect. All right? But it's not all that's left. See, all of these levels, they have 7 parts, 7 pieces, 7 days of creation. But this last level has 8. And that's interesting. See, 7 is associated with completion. It's God's number. It's God's number of completion. That's why it's a lucky number. But 8 is associated with rebirth and infinity, the eternal, and cycles of re-beginning. And so the eighth final seed, see, the 8th piece of this is what I call the 4th fruit, or the final fruit. It's the fruit. It's the fruit of the Trifold tree of life. And that fruit is the nourishing of the entire tree. They're bringing the family back, and the family going back down the tree to nourish it, to bring energy into it, to help raise beings back up. See? So it's that after completing this whole cycle, after God has gone through and brought you from your lowest desires, made the space to bring you from your lowest desires all the way back up to their eternal realm up here, God then shows us the path on how we can do that for others. It's showing that many of us here are doing that. Many of us here are essentially light workers, coming down from the highest realm after going through this cycle to come back down and show others how to do it. All of this is built into the book of Genesis, into the paleo Hebrew alphabet. The chakra system, the tree of life, the trifold tree of life, the trinity, the mother, the father, the child, all present. We have the three aspects of creation present, which are also associated with the three aspects of creation present in Hindu mythology and the Hindu creation, in the Hindu spirituality, rather. See, we have the opening and creating. It's the creating aspect, which is Brahma. We have the upholding, guiding aspect, which is Vishnu. And then we have the completing and rebirthing aspect, which is Shiva. Okay? See, they're all present here. All present. Coming down here, we have our ending form letters. We'll get into this a little bit real quick. Ending form letters show us the 6 elements of creation. Because in the Hebrew alphabet, there's 5 letters that have a lower form, right? So if they come at the end of a word, they'll have a lower form. Literally, they look slightly different. Some of them go down more, and then some of them like close up. I'll show you right here. Right, so here we have all right, this is pay, right? Like pay closes over here. This is speaking. But lower pay goes down. It's almost like it's going down into the ground. So it's like it's a lower vibrational energy. This is a higher vibrational energy that's going back into the other stuff being spoken. This is a lower vibrational energy that's kind of going into the lower selves, the lower desires, right? And they're all like that, except for Mem, which is closed off. It's the lower vibrational aspect because the high vibrational has an opening on the bottom. You see? The low vibrational Mem is closed. It's the box of rain. I have a whole thing I'm going to do about a box of rain because I think the Grateful Dead song is about Mem, the lower Mem. And Mem represents the waters and stuff, and the box of rain it's right in line with that. So, and it's a little box, you see. Little box of rain. I don't know who put it there. Believe it if you need it, or leave it if you dare. And it's just a box of rain, or a ribbon for your hair. Such a long, long time to be gone, and a short time to be here. That's a little box of rain. All right. I'm like stuck. It does not want to move. I think I'm too zoomed in right now. All right. Ending letters, we only have 5 of them. There's 5 elements of creation. Actually, there's 6 elements of creation. And there's 5 explicit elements of creation and 1 hidden element of creation, the 6th element. And here we find there's 5 explicit elements of creation in the alphabet, in the Hebrew alphabet, and 1 implicit, 1 hidden element of creation. I wonder who guesses what the hidden one is. Anybody out there? Any of my esoterics out there know who the hidden one is? All right, we start with Nun, the seed, the lower earth and the higher earth, right? It represents the element earth, represents grounding or rooting, which gives stability and growth, can represent life starting and growing, and it begins the journey and gives the basis for a strong starting off point. Water. We need to water the seeds. Well, I guess this is in the wrong order, because the truth is, see, the 6th element that's hidden, that doesn't have an explicit ending, phase, form, is Aleph, or light, God, consciousness, or what there is, everything that there is. It does not change. It is unchanging. God is what there is and always is. We just change our perception of God based on where we are. See? So God is the Hebrew letter, Aleph, that has no ending form, but you treat it like an ending form. If you find Ah at the end of a phrase, it means lower God. If you find Ah at the beginning of a phrase, it means higher God or higher consciousness. See? Or lower God, lower consciousness. Now the next element is Kaf, the higher Kaf and the lower Kaf, which is the giving and space. The gift that is being given is open hands. See? It's a space. It's a holding of space. In order to give, you have to be willing to hold space after you give something. In order to receive, you have to be willing to hold space. So space is the first element created, and it's unseen, and it's it's the unseen element, right? I never thought of it before. I started unlocking this and researching the different elements. And when I found the 6th element thing, I looked up 6 elements, and it's related to a concept in Buddhism. So these are related and interrelated concepts. I'm not discovering something new. God has been unveiling this for eons, slowly and surely. This is the time God is unveiling the interconnectedness of all these things, you see? So God is now blessing me with the opportunity to bring forth this truth of the interconnectedness of the Bible and Hinduism and Buddhism, and Islam and Judaism. That's what this is all leading to, you see? The next element after that is fire. Fire burns away what's fake and false, but it could be a desire that burns you and a craving that sets you alight, right? We have the air, Pe, which is speaking. It's the element air. There's a higher air and a lower air, higher spirit and a lower spirit, right? Because air is related to spirit as well. Then we have Mem, the high water and the lower water. Water is related to purification and cleansing. And it's also related to watering and growth, watering life. It's related to nourishment of life. But it could also nourish, chaos and disorder if you allow it to nourish the lower seeds in your lower desires, right? And then earth, which is where we find ourselves grounded. And that water that we just had, that water is going to water that seed. And that seed is going to sprout the tree of life, goes right back up to God in the infinite realm, right back up here, unchanging God. That is everything. That is all things, guiding, loving, holding, giving space, breath, life, love, faith and guidance, all of it, always. God is unveiling this now. There is nothing to fear in this world. The thing that pulls us away from God is fear. God is showing our interconnection with each other. Okay, I'll have this linked. Once again, I'll have it linked on my video. I'll have this document linked with all of my updated stuff. It's really great stuff. Anybody that's into esotericism needs, well, just anybody that's into God at all, spirit, check it out, because it's wonderful, and it's wonderful revelations. And God is just so amazing. I give everything back to God, because everything that God does is so amazing. And these revelations are so perfectly succinct and so amazing. I can't even, it's mind-boggling, honestly. Like, sometimes I wish I had someone here with me to just be like, are you kidding me? Because it just, and it's just revelation after revelation after revelation. So, again, I love you all very much. I hope this wasn't too long. My next video that I'll make, I'll be correcting some of my stuff about pronunciations of words. I have really honed in my understanding of the paleo Hebrew language, and I will be delving into that in my next video. The history of it, actually, I've kind of mapped it out, how the language of the paleo Hebrew language evolved into Greek and Latin and Arabic and Aramaic. And I'm even working on a theory that I think it developed into Brahmi, which was the first script that the Sanskrit language was written in. So we got awesome stuff going on. It's amazing. I love you all very much. God loves you all very much. Open yourself up to faith. Give your waters to the higher seeds of love and connection, and let go of your own selfish desires, and, give to God and see what God has in store for you. Because 6 months ago, I never would have said God. I never would have said I believe in God, and not in the way that I am now. And opening myself up to this has propelled me down this path that God has been laying out for me, and it has been set up for me. And it is time for us all to be doing that right now. It is time for us to stop screwing around. And it is time for us to listen to the call and to get our people out of Egypt. Because we can split those waters. We can walk on those waters. We can water those right seeds, and we can grow those revelations to God. And it's time for that. So don't let yourself waste away. God has big plans for you. If you're here right now in this world, you are a part of a system and a plan that is so huge. And the revelations that are happening and the changes that are going to be taking place, that these revelations are preparing us for, are huge. So don't waste yourself. Don't waste your life anymore. God is calling you. Answer the call. Ask for love. Ask for guidance. Stop asking for God to water the seeds that you want watered. Start asking what you can do for God. Ask in love. Ask in faith. Ask with humility. And say, Lord, I pray for nothing for myself. Nothing for this self. Nothing for these desires or these wants. I pray only that this body and this self and this soul and this mind can serve you in the best way that's possible, in the way that you long and will and wish, and that only your will and desire be. And God will propel you up a ladder. Propel you up a ladder. And you will find things thrown onto you. Promise you that. So ask in faith, ask in love, ask in humility. And remember that nothing is beneath us. We are here to guide each other back to God. Every moment counts. Every interaction matters. Every seed you water matters. You see, there is nothing beneath you. God is revealing a whole ancient language that is revealing a divine purpose and plan that has been here since the beginning, hidden right in front of our eyes, and he's revealing it through me. And I am a nobody who works as I work as a daycare teacher. I work with 3-year-olds, and I love my job, and I'm very humble about it, and I'm grateful for it, and I'm grateful that I get to do it because I know I'm watering seeds that God needs me to water right now. And when God doesn't need me to water those seeds anymore, he's going to bring me somewhere else. So be open to what God can bring you to, and be open to what God is asking of you. There are no seeds too small. There's no job too small. There's no purpose too small. There's no love too small. And there's no soul or heart that is too small to be worth our love and worth our time. Because that is the purpose of this. That is why we're here. And if not for love, it wouldn't even be not a single one of these things. If not for love, we wouldn't have even met to give back to love. And let's guide our world into a better place. Not even better. Let's just guide our world into a place that God has been wanting. Because God has held it all the whole time. So I pray, Heavenly Divine Father, Divine Mother, and Divine Seed, the Christ and Buddha within all of us. We pray for guidance. We pray for love. We pray for your light to guide. We pray for humility and the strength to set boundaries. We pray for the intuition to listen to our hearts and follow our hearts. In your heavenly names, we pray. Amen.